Hey everyone, Tankenstein here. In this video, I'll be doing a quick overview, or a hopefully quick overview of the dev server and the new vehicles that are going to be coming in the newest Drone Age update. Now, there are going to be a few vehicles that will be coming in future dev servers, or that simply will just show up on the live update once it's released in a few weeks, that are not here, that are speculated on, but we can't really confirm thus far, but I will try to mention the ones I've heard about. Now, that said, I also do have a giveaway for 2 SU-25Ks, and I will link that in the comments below, so if you want a part in that giveaway, you can definitely check that out. So that being said, let's just go start off with the US, and believe it or not, there's not really all too many ships, or vehicles rather, for the US. So first and foremost, or really just first, I guess you could say, I'll just go over the M36B2 here, and this is basically the M36, except it weighs a little bit more, about if I'm not mistaken, about 2 tons over this. Yeah, thereabouts. So that's 28.1. This is 29.9. And it features a very nice armor, I guess you could say, armor patch, or whatever you want to call it, like a roof over top of the turret. It's only 6.5 millimeters, but that should basically make it so that LMGs and also even some HMGs from aircraft during strafing runs do not kill crew members, or at least they kill them a little bit less. More importantly, this sees the M4 or the M348 Heat FS shell that you will be getting as a top level shell, whereas the regular M36 does not have that. But that will, of course, add another thing that you have to unlock before you can get to the M1128, so there's that. Secondly, we have the USS Alaska, and I don't know if a lot of people are stoked for this, but I can tell you 100% that I'm stoked for this ship. This is a really, really cool ship with a really cool history. It was only around for like 2.5 years in commission before they got rid of it because it was built just too late to really participate too much in World War II, and it just wasn't a ship that they felt like was worth keeping on after World War II, so I think they decommissioned it in like 1947, maybe 48, but correct me if I'm wrong. Anyways, this has 3 triple turrets of 12-inch cannons, which are themselves just above 300 millimeters each. And this is more or less, I mean, European countries would consider this to be a fast battleship, but Americans, they call it a, back in the day, they called it a large cruiser. In fact, actually, it's the only class that's designated as a large cruiser, but really, it's pretty much a battle cruiser. And this is just a really, really cool piece of history with a ton of anti-aircraft fire, and you can expect gameplay for this coming out tomorrow. Now, moving on, let's go to Germany, and Germany is another country that doesn't really have all too much to show for it in this upcoming update, at least not thus far. Now, they have the VK3002M, which is a really cool vehicle. This is a Panther prototype, pretty much the same as the Panther, except it weighs about 10 tons less, 50 more horsepower, so it's more or less the same as the Panther D, rather, but again, weighs about 10 tons less, 50 more horsepower for about 20 power to weight ratio, 20 horsepower per ton power to weight ratio, which is fantastic. Same cannon as the Panther D, same turret rotation speed, same reload, all that, but it does have 20 millimeters less hull armor and turret armor in the front. But of course, you do get 10 tons less and more horsepower. I've tried it out. I do have gameplay. If you want, I'll try to link that below. It is fantastic, and this thing moves around like no one's business. Now, kind of like the Americans, there are no helicopters, but unlike the Americans, they are getting a new plane. So we're getting the MiG-23BN, and I will be releasing gameplay for that again tomorrow. And this is pretty much a ground attack version of the MiG-23. Now, unlike the MiG-27, which was built from the MiG-23 to be a ground attack, this is pretty much just a modified MiG-23, and it shows. So it doesn't have any air-to-air missiles. It only has 1 cannon unless you equip with the 2 23mm cannons here. But that's it. It doesn't have any ballistics computer for bombs. It does have them for rockets, thankfully, but really this is going to act as an intermediary because, as you see, aside from the F-84F, arguably, there's not really all too much beyond 8.0 and before basically this that you can act as a strike fighter. So this will more or less kind of act as a 9.0 or like a bridge vehicle to be a decent enough strike fighter, but really you're going to find it with a lot of rockets, I think. And if you're okay with MCLOS as a decent form of destroying vehicles for guidance, then of course it has those, but it is what it is. Next up for ships, we have the SMS Elbing, which is a World War I light cruiser. And this will be the lowest BR light cruiser for Germany. It's not really all too impressive based on the stats. It only has 8 main cannons and 4 25mm cannons, so it's not very impressive, and I could see this thing more or less being destroyed very easily by destroyers even, but it is what it is, and a lot of people, I don't really think they're going to be getting that, and it's just another kind of thing just to stop people from getting higher BR I guess, blue water ships. Next up for the USSR, let's go over to the Army. And again, I'm trying to make this as quick as possible while also being descriptive. So I will try to put chapters in the comments below if you're interested in that. Now, when it comes to tanks, they're getting the T-80 UK. Now, I do actually have gameplay for this already, so I'll try to link that below. But pretty much, this is a command variant of the T-80U. It is a squadron vehicle, and the main differences here are that it has the Star 1 active protective system. It does have a programmable heat FS, or a heat shell, or HE shell rather, which you can use to destroy helicopters. It's programmable based on your laser rangefinder, and it also has just basic thermals rather than this getting night vision and then thermals. This gets it all in one upgrade, and it also has a laser warning system, whereas the T-80U just has the laser rangefinder. This has a combo rangefinder and warning system. Now moving on, I don't believe they get any helicopters, but they do get a new plane, 2 new planes as a matter of fact. We have the Su-25 and the Su-25K. Now, there's not really too many differences between these planes. I do have gameplay out for the Su-25K, but the only real difference between these two is that this gets 256 countermeasures, this gets 128. And I guess the reason being is because they found out during the Afghanistan war, being that the Su-25K is the export variant, so it wouldn't really need this, but that they needed a lot more countermeasures because the Afghanistan forces were really shooting them down a lot, so they needed a lot more countermeasures. So, that said, this is going to be a very good aircraft. It comes with R-60MKs, the regular comes with R-60Ms, and this just comes with a huge loadout, and you can equip it with 4 of those 23mm cannons. I've even done like a test loadout here with some incendiary bombs as well. This is going to be one nasty mamma jamma, and like I said, this is pretty much going to be about the same, but a little bit different. So it's more or less the same vehicle, but a little bit different in somewhat minor ways. Of course, you're not really typically going to use over 128 countermeasures, but it is what it is. Now, insofar as Blue Water Fleet is concerned, they do get the Mikhail Kutuzov, which is a light cruiser. I believe that's the light cruiser at the the last light cruiser that the Russians ever fielded, which is pretty cool. This is modification 1986. And then you also get a destroyer, which I guess they had in 1978. The Soviet Navy was really ahead of the times, apparently, in fielding old-style ships. Now, moving on, again, they don't have any helicopters. Let me just check with this. Exactly. Okay. And going on to Great Britain. So I don't believe, if memory serves me correctly, they're not getting any sort of ground vehicles outside of the Skink, of course, which is obviously something a lot of people are really excited about. And this is pretty much just going to be a quad-mounted turret, or SPAA rather, with 4 20mm cannons. More or less, this is going to be like an allied Ostwind, except, of course, it is enclosed in a turret, which is fantastic. It doesn't really have all too many things. I will be releasing gameplay for this. Of course, there's not really all too much that you can release for this, but it does have up to 42mm of armor pen. Nothing fantastic, but it is what it is, and it's a pretty damn cool vehicle that a lot of people have been waiting for a very long time, myself included. Now, moving on to helicopters, as you can see, there are none. Moving on to aircraft. So this is interesting, and actually, I'll kind of bring this back to a point that I made before. There are a few aircraft that are being discussed that will likely be coming in the newest update that have not shown up in the dev server. One of them is the Harrier GR7. So that vehicle, if I'm not mistaken, can have up to 6 AIM-9s. It can carry a ton of ordnance. It's just an improved version, basically, of the Harriers that we see in the tech tree. And credit to European Canadian to actually bringing that to my attention, because I actually saw his video on that. I would definitely strongly suggest that you check it out. Pretty quick, it's very informative, and very good. Additionally, there is a file that shows that the type of radar used in the A6E Intruder is in the dev server. So we might be seeing the A6E in future dev servers or coming out in this newest update, and we just don't know it yet. So that's really, really nifty. So kind of moving on, I mean, there's not really all too much. They do get, if I'm not mistaken, a new ship. At least I thought that they did. Maybe not for the coastal tree, but you know, of course, there's a lot of coastal vehicles that these countries get, and no one really notices them, unfortunately, because no one really cares about coastal. People care about the big ships, and that's just not really something that we see all too much. Now, interestingly, Japan's getting something, the Type 16 prototype. This is going to be a wheeled vehicle, kind of Centauro-like, if you will. It's got a 105mm cannon. It's got heat FS, APF SDS, you know, the M735. It's going to be pretty decent. It's got itself some, I believe, thermals. Yep, thermals. And also the tank commander gets thermals, so it will be a very interesting vehicle. I don't really see why this is going to be at 8.7. It almost kind of seems like a 9 or a 9.3 BR vehicle, just based on the stats, but Japan is getting that. And of course, I mean, being that we have so many different nations, we are getting a ton of vehicles for, like, we're only getting a few vehicles at this point for each nation with each path. So we can't really expect all too much to be coming all the time anymore, whereas it used to be USA, Germany, USSR, Great Britain, and Japan. That was it for a long period of time. And so we can't really expect that all too much anymore, unfortunately. But also, it is kind of fortunate because, I mean, why would you want just all, like, you know, 50 million vehicles to come for all these countries and no one else gets anything else? You know, I kind of like how we're getting the spread out version, I guess you could say. Anyways, so next up we have the AFT-9, which is an anti-tank missile carrier for the Chinese ground tech tree. This will be pretty decent. I actually saw one of these in a match earlier, I believe yesterday, in the dev server. It's going to be very fast, very light, has a pretty damn good ATGM, a tandem charge ATGM, the HJ9, with up to 850 millimeters of armor pen, and even at 60 degrees, 425 millimeters of armor pen is not too shabby. It's got NVD. Probably going to be Gen 2, if I'm not mistaken. I wouldn't be surprised if it's Gen 2. A lot of Chinese tanks have that, even at the 8.3, 8.7 BR range. So this will be a very nasty customer, but of course, it is a Chinese vehicle, so not a lot of people are going to get it. We are also seeing the introduction of the proper Chinese helicopter tree. So we have the Gazelle, which is, if I'm not mistaken, already present in other tech trees, the Z11 and the Z19, the Z19 being the regular tech tree version of the Z19A, or E rather, but with fewer armaments. So this has, as you can see, it's got the TY-90, which are fantastic air-to-air missiles. It's got the AKD-9s, the FS, 70s, and also some Type 57-1s, whereas this has kind of pretty much just more more things that are combined. You know, for example, you have the Blue Arrow 9s, you have the TY-90s. So it's just kind of, I guess, more presets, really might be the best way to put it. Now, this just has some basic ATGMs or AGMs or whatever you want to call them, and then some basic air-to-air missiles, but that's pretty much it. Did I say air-to-air missiles? I meant to say ground attack missiles. But either way, it's not really all too much, worth looking at when it comes to that. And additionally, when it comes to the Chinese air tech tree, there's not really all too much. Moving on to Italy, we are getting, of course, the VRCC, which is a new Centauro variant. This is a premium Centauro. This is a Spanish Centauro. It's got a different turret, but essentially it's got the same or slightly different armor layout, but the same armor thickness. This does have Gen 2 thermals, I believe. I tested it out the other day. Unfortunately, I don't have it for battle, but you can get Gen 2 thermals. You have the DM33 with 408 millimeters of armor pen. The 735, which, I mean, this is premium. I don't know why you would use that over the DM33, but of course, hey man, it's your game. If you want to play it with the DM or with the lesser APF SDS, you can do it. Otherwise, it's a pretty standard Centauro 105mm cannon. Nothing all too fantastic, but I will be releasing actually a review of the OF40 MTCA, which will pair very nicely I will tell you this right now with the VRCC. Now, when it comes to helicopters, they are also getting the T-129. I believe you can get this with GE, if I'm not mistaken. So there's that. But you also have, it's just kind of a very basic thing. You have laser-guided missiles, which is very interesting. You have just some laser plus IOG. I'm not really entirely sure what that exactly means, so if you guys have that in the, if you want to tell me in the comments below, let me know. But it's got some pretty decent armament, so it's just nothing all too fantastic, but it does have some AIM-92s. I believe those are Stingers. Let me know, because I'm not all too informed when it comes to that sort of thing. We're also getting the G91Y, which is pretty much just a G91 with afterburners, whereas you have the G91YS here that has AIM-9Bs. So it's pretty much just a G91Y, but without AIM-9Bs, if that makes any level of sense. So it's nothing to be to write home about all too much, but it is still pretty cool that you have a lower BR option for that without the missiles. Now, the Italians are also getting the RN da Verrazzano. I know it says Verrazzano. I mean, that's the American way to say it, but because the Verrazzano Bridge in New York, not giving you any clues to where I grew up, but you do have that. Now, moving on to France. We do not have any sort of French ground vehicles, if I'm not mistaken, but actually, we are getting the B2, which is pretty much just the clone of the American version, and it has an additional LMG, so that's pretty cool. But aside from that, we are getting something very, very cool. Not a helicopter, but rather the Mirage 2000. That's right. I do have gameplay for this if you guys want to check it out. But the Mirage 2000 CS5 is coming to War Thunder. It looks so smooth. Look at that plane. It's just absolutely beautiful. And it comes after, of course, the Mirage F1 line in the tech tree, and it can carry a pretty decent amount of ordnance. So even if, for example, you wanted to carry some laser-guided, or not some laser-guided, but some air-to-air missiles, you can also carry a fair amount of bombs underneath. Unfortunately, it's only one 250-kilogram bomb per pylon, at least as of right now, but it does have that, and we are also seeing the EFS, which is the engine fire system. And that will be coming to a few vehicles, such as the Su-25, I believe the B-17s as well. You might have a manually used one for that one, but that will put out engine fire. But this is a very sleek aircraft, with the top missiles being the F-530D, or the Matra Super F-530D, and also the Matra R550 Magic 2s, which are both very, very nice. And I've test-driven this. Again, try to check it out in the comments below if you want. But this thing is fast. So moving on to Sweden. We are almost done here. There's a lot to go over. So Sweden does get a few ground vehicles. They get the PVB 302 Bill, which is pretty much just a really, it's like an IKEA looking tank, essentially, or ATGM carrier. Nothing really all too fantastic about it. It does get the RB56 Bill 2. This is going to be kind of like the, if I'm not mistaken, the TOW 2, where it goes over the tank and then blows up over it and kills everyone inside. So it's a really cool thing to use in that regard, and it also has a nice 20mm cannon, as you can see here, that can be used for, one, destroying aircraft, but two, if you decide to get the armor-piercing variants, you can destroy lightly armored vehicles. Now, this will have NVD, but not thermal, so that kind of sucks. This is 8.3 BR, whereas the Chinese ATGM carrier is also 8.7, but also has thermals and just has 4 missiles that you could launch, whereas this is a single. So I'm not really sure exactly why they're the same BR, but it is what it is. Additionally, we are getting the CV90105 XC8, which is going to replace, if I'm not mistaken, the TML in the tech tree. Now, I've seen some things about this. Some people say that's not replacing the TML. Some people say that it is, but it looked like on the dev server gameplay, on the live stream that I saw with my own 2 eyes as it happened, that it looks like, based on what Mike Goes Boom said, and all, or not him, but rather Oxy said, he actually messaged the devs working on it, and they indicated, from what I saw, that this will be replacing the TML. Anyways, this is a vehicle that I actually have gameplay out, just released it. It is better than the TML pretty much in every way. It has Gen 2 thermals, it has an autoloader, so it has a flat 5-second reload rate. It's got about 1.5 more power to weight ratio, so horsepower per ton more than the TML, so it is slightly faster. It is a little bit heavier, but of course, again, it has the better engine to compensate for it and then some, but it's just overall a very good vehicle. It also has 42 degrees of vertical guidance, so there's that. Very, very cool vehicle in my opinion, and you do get the Scout UAV with it, and of course the DM33 that can cut through 408 millimeters of armor, which I believe is more than the other one, because I think that one could only go through like 300-ish, maybe 330 at most. Additionally, another one that a lot of people don't know about is the Leopard 1A5, and this is pretty much a Leopard 1A5. And if you want, of course, I do have gameplay for this, but it does have thermals, has laser rangefinder, pretty much everything that you'd see in a regular 1A5, but it is premium in Norwegian colors in the Swedish tech tree, even though it's a German vehicle, and it does not have a dozer blade. If the dozer blade is a make or break thing for you, I'm sorry this does not have it, but it is still just a Leopard 1A5, but with premium bonuses, so it's pretty damn cool. You can use that to team up with your CV90105 XC8. That looks oh so menacing in my opinion. This thing looks really badass. Now finally, finally, what am I talking about? I just want to double check here. Don't believe they get anything else. Unfortunately, they don't get anything else. I would love to see a more advanced variant or even a less advanced variant of the J35D, because once you get up to like what, 9.7 BR, you have almost nothing. And then you have the AJ37, which is just not an easy vehicle to use. Thankfully, they are getting, oh, look at that. It looks like they are getting customizable loadouts in the upcoming update. I did not know that. That's really cool. So I guess a Swedish aircraft is, they are getting a little bit better with the upcoming update. Now, the Israelis are getting a lot too. They're getting a lot of vehicles. Essentially, just the Magak variants and also the Merkava Mark 3C. I'll just kind of go over this quickly. I believe the Magak, it's pretty much just like the M48 and the M60. So you get more or less variations of those. APFS or APDS, Heat FS, you guys know the deal. They get more or less progressively up armored, up gunned as more or less the tech tree moves on. So this has the M68, this has the Sharir cannon, this also has APF SDS, the M111, and of course Heat FS. Then it gets up armored here with some additional ERA. Then it gets more up armored with the dozer blade, and also, if I'm not mistaken, well, it has the same exact powerful APF SDS, but it has additionally some thermals, if I'm not mistaken. Yep, thermal. So more or less, it's just a continual improvement. And then this one is just where it hits the fan, so to speak. Way up armored with ERA plates. It has better APF SDS, you have the laser warning receiver, so on and so forth. Then you have the Merkava Mark 3C, which is pretty much just going to be an advanced variant of the Merkava Mark 3B. I'm not really entirely sure the exact differences here, but it is a little bit better, and it's more or less a new vehicle for people to use. So it's just not really all too much different, but it is there. And that's going to be about the laziest I get in any of my videos when it comes to just looking at new vehicles. So that being said, let me know what you guys think in the comments below. What vehicles are you most excited about? You know, like I said, there are a few vehicles that we will likely be seeing in this update or in the near future, like the Harrier GR7, the A6E Intruder. But if there are any other vehicles that you guys know about, let me know in the comments below. Let everyone else know in the comments below, and I'm sure that people will be very appreciative of it. That said, thanks so much for watching. Remember, I do have that giveaway. Please check that out if you guys want a shot at one of 2 Su-25Ks, because that is going to be a really, really good aircraft. And it is very fun in the dev server, so I've got no doubt it will be in the live server. Either way, thanks again, guys, and I will see you all on the other side. Take care, everyone.